to let you all know this is being recorded for folks who are in time zones where they should be in bed primarily, or folks who are have other meetings or things going on. So thanks for being here, everybody. My name is Julie Stevens. I'm an associate professor in the Department of Landscape Architecture at Iowa State University and a member of EDRA, and I am also on the board as the Knowledge Network Members and Partners Committee Chair. So if you're new to EDRA, welcome. We're super glad that you're here. Would love to connect with you and talk to you a little bit more about what we do with EDRA and how you can kind of get plugged in. And if you've been around EDRA, welcome back. I'm excited. I'm not going to say too much here other than, please reach out if you have any questions. And I'm going to turn it over to Janet right away so we can dive right into the content. I'm super excited about this session. I think you all are too. So thanks, Janet, for organizing this. And I'm excited to hear from you, Cody.
Great. Thanks so much, Julie. And thanks for helping to organize this. So welcome, everybody. I'm Janet Loback. I am the chair of the Children, Youth, and Environments Knowledge Network for EDRA. Have been for a long time, know lots of you, and I'm hoping that I'll see many of you at the conference in Portland in about six weeks or so from now. So I have known Cody for quite a while. We have not yet had a chance to meet in person, so I'm particularly excited to be going to Portland. And I thought not only is the work that Harper's Playground doing really relevant apropos for the CYA network, but particularly as many of us are going to be heading to Portland, we thought this would be a great tie-in. So we're going to give most of our time to Cody. What I will say is he said that it's fine. He will welcome questions as we go, but he's going to kind of be in presentation mode. So what I'll ask is if you have a question, just place it in the chat, and then as we've got a couple, I'll periodically sort of interrupt Cody and post those, but we also will have some open time at the end for questions. So I'm going to pass it right to Cody. Cody, you can do a little bit, I didn't do your bio, you can do a little bit more introduction to yourself and your organization and team, and looking forward to the presentation today.
Thank you so much, Janet. It's really nice to be here this morning with you if you're in a morning time zone, or this afternoon or even evening with you all. Welcome. I go by G. Cody QJ Goldberg. I do have 5 names. I am the co-founder and chief play officer of Harper's Playground. We are a nonprofit organization dedicated to changing the landscape of the whole globe such that it is more playful, more natural, and especially more inclusive. That's sort of our sweet spot, all 3 of those things. What you're looking at now is an illustration of the first Harper's Playground that was opened in November of 2012 in Portland, Oregon. And I'll be sharing a bit of the genesis story of that space. And I'm going to especially share with you a little guided tour of our most recent playground that opened last September, that hopefully many of you will be able to come visit. It's in Vancouver, Washington, just across the bridge from Portland. But I'll also share a bit of our why we do this work as well. But let's start with a little bit of the history of play, or the state of play on a global basis. I always love to share these images. Play is something children obviously do naturally, something that they do not need a playground to accomplish. It's the history of children's play is such that I think, and if you look at the playground structures around the world, children play almost everywhere but a typical playground structure. I've seen evidence like this. There's probably playground structures somewhere nearby, but they're choosing otherwise. And of course, those were all rural locations. City streets have seen children play quite a bit historically, and it's really because children were playing so freely in city streets that playgrounds were invented, of course, to get children out of the streets. Around the turn of the century, the early playgrounds, and I want to stress the word grounds, not structures, were really just single features, right? Or a series of features connected by a landscape that people could traverse to. Notice, if you will, how many children love to play all at once, collaboratively on the original playground equipment. Notice how wonderfully dangerous it was, risk being such an important part of play, but usually requiring teamwork, connection, and social gathering. These historical photos remind me that the early playground was pretty good. And somehow, some way, playgrounds took a turn. Um, and I would say for the worse. This structure is my favorite one to dissect a little bit to describe the problems with this model. Um, First and foremost, it's devoid of nature, of a natural element whatsoever. But if you notice the image, every child is playing individually. These really are not designed for collaborative play in any way, shape, or form. Our biggest issue with them at Harper's Playground is the fact that these playgrounds assume that children who use wheelchairs don't actually need them. But that is not the true case. Oftentimes, children do need their wheelchairs. Um, so that reality has been a big part of inspiring our personal why at Harper's Playground. But there's a bigger why that we've been really fascinated by over the last 14 years of dissecting and focusing on why is it important to change that paradigm that I just showed you. And we've outlined really three global issues. People who experience disability are excluded from everyday life in so many ways. The schools, job places, transportation. Why the playground? It starts with the playground. Um, there's a play deficit happening globally, especially in westernized countries. Um, I include some of these images of children participating in organized sports because there's so much evidence that entering the organized sport landscape too young is a detriment to free play. Children need self-directed play outside in nature, and it's declining at a precipitous rate. And finally, isolation and loneliness are such at epidemic proportions. Now, I've been sharing this slide for years. There's all sorts of suggested evidence about this, but most recently, I'm sure many of you are aware of this report by the Surgeon General of the United States of America that came out just last year, called Our Epidemic of Loneliness and Isolation. Social connection is decreasing, has been decreasing for years at a rapid rate, with bona fide serious health detrimental impacts on human beings. And within the report, there are 6 suggested pillars of change to be sought, and most notably to design the built environment to promote social connection really caught our attention because that's absolutely the zenith of what we are doing. And so I'll spend a good deal of time hopefully proving to you all that that's the case. But back to the origin of Harper's Playground, it really started in the summer of 2009 when our then 4-year-old daughter Harper took a walk in our neighborhood park. This little yellow walker was the model that she took her first independent steps with. And this is the actual park in our neighborhood that she was attracted by a colorful playground structure in the background, as you can see, and made her way there. And my wife said, everybody has and deserves the right to play as a result of what we found at that playground. What we found were 2 things: a little ramp into the wood chips and the transfer deck, these blue handles. Children like Harper were supposed to travel down that ramp over to that transfer deck and apparently leave their walker or their wheelchair behind and drag themselves up those steps. Those 2 things allowed that playground to be called ADA compliant, believe it or not. So with a little bit of rage and a little bit of excitement, we took to the drawing board, and with a team of designers, landscape architects, we helped forge a new vision, a vision that brought nature to the fore and made sure anyone who used wheels could get absolutely everywhere. And this is the result of that session. It's a landscape filled with boulders and pathways that you can get to every feature. And I'll expand a bit more on exactly what's going on in there, but I like sharing that drawing. My good friend, childhood friend, his name is Todd Gervin, is the landscape architect who donated his time and services to do this drawing for us. He's normally designing resorts in Cabo San Lucas, so it's nice that we dragged him away from placing infinity pools on the beach to doing something really worthy. I love to tease. So back to the Genesis story, the design was great. And in fact, the design was paramount in helping us catapult our little dream forward, because this design was really what we used to sell the idea, to raise the money ourselves. Our family committed to this vision, the city of Portland having told us they had no budget for such a thing. So we started with a bake sale in front of our house. Really good bake sale. I think we did $750. And in under 3 years, we had raised $1.2 million. We managed the construction of and cut the ribbon to the city's first, what we call radically inclusive playground. And it really did start quite a lot of activity since that date, that ribbon cutting. Within a year, we were featured on the Today Show. And we really were adamant that we didn't want the Today Show to just tell the story of what we had done. We wanted them to really promote the fact that we wanted to do more, to build more. So we were not, at this point, our own nonprofit. We were just a mom and a dad on a mission. I accepted an invitation to do a TED Talk, which I think just about everyone has done by now. There's so many of them, but at the time it was pretty special. You can see the hat there. That was the inauguration of the hat. But being a very shy public speaker, I said yes, especially because I thought this would be a great way to keep this momentum going of people understanding the need. And our organization has now grown to having involvement in 19 projects directly, but we've influenced many more. We learn about them pretty much on a daily basis that have been inspired by our story or our design, our how-to workshop. It has gone so far as Tokyo, Japan. This is our project in Tokyo, Japan. That came about through a partnership with Nike in time for the 2020 Olympics, which actually happened in 2021. But it all comes back to what we did, which was we took this actual playground structure, and with my own two hands, I actually dismantled it. It was quite a glorious day, and replaced it with a landscape. Remember, playground, not play structure. And it has always been so much more vibrant, filled with far more people, far more often, a greater variety. It is just such a vibrant space. So now I'm going to kind of dive into the elements of our design. Through this image of, well, several images of our inaugural space, you can see it's pretty elegant, right? It's a landscape. It's not a McDonald land play structure. But what's going on here, while simple, is sort of profound, I think. We have defined what inclusive design means to us as 3 layers of inviting design. So the first layer is what we call physically inviting space. So of course, most people are familiar with the words accessible and even adaptive. Those alone are not inclusive, but they are the most important to begin with, right? If you do any of the other layers that I'm about to speak about, but it's not totally accessible, then it's lost. But that's the first layer. And the second layer, we call that socially inviting, and that's by bringing in a lot more nature and thoughtfully creating socially inviting spaces. Like in this image, you can see a circular seating space at the top of our hill where people would be invited to connect, literally through the positioning of the seats. And of course, nature makes us a lot more socially connection worthy, or happy to connect with others. And the third layer we call emotionally inviting, ultimately through good design. And good design is a little harder to just define, but you certainly know it when you see it. But that's thoughtful details, the use of artwork, to really ensure that people feel that the space is beckoning them in, that it has been curated for their delight. And I think when you put it all together, so far we have found you get a really vibrant space. And that's what we offer, a certification process, and that's how we help people achieve these designs, by having these design principles that we share. What matters most to us is whether it works as its true intention. And we have reams of photo evidence that it does. We just want to see that if you use wheels, you are equally able to connect with anybody within the space. And it's a good reminder that it's not only children who experience disabilities, but sometimes it's an elder, a parent, a grandparent. This particular photo was taken by one of our volunteers, and this woman actually purchased the home in this neighborhood to be adjacent to this park. That's how important it was. I myself am now seeing a hand raise, so I'm going to go ahead and call on Karen.
Is that okay to interject a question?
Please.
So I've been tied into accessible accessibility and disability tech, for instance, in some of my work. And I've worked with Perkins School for the Blind on a program. I'm pretty tied into that ecosystem. And I wonder if you're also incorporating people with vision impairment in the process.
Yes, absolutely. And I think this is a good time to say that's a perfect question for, I think, the end. I thought this might be a question for like something that I just sparked. I'm going to get to some examples of that in the rest of the presentation. So the answer is yes. I will get to more of it. And I think if a question is going to interject, hopefully it's something that's really tied specifically to something I've just shared. Otherwise, let's save it to the end, because we also have time for the questions. But yes, the answer is yes, and I have examples coming up. Thank you. So also, I just was mentioning elders are also part of the importance. We think we're designing for all ages as well as all abilities. But I like to show, and this to me is the most important component of this talk, hopefully right now. This is an example of a child who uses wheels, able to freely navigate the entire space. Her name is Stella. And as you can see, not only does she enjoy it, but her caregiver also enjoys it. But here's the most important point I will make right now, is that everything we have seen, everything we have heard, all evidence suggests that kids without any disability whatsoever absolutely appreciate these spaces more than any typical structure. It's unstructured play. The human child is absolutely hardwired to navigate an unstructured environment, which they get to really choose what they're going to do there. It's not nearly as dictatorial as that structure. To me, that is the most important argument for why this has to be the way. And it wouldn't be inclusive if this wasn't the case. It would be a segregated space for people with disabilities, which is never, in my opinion, the goal ever. It should always be for everybody, whatever we're doing. So Harper's Playground is committed to changing the world through the design standards that we've come up with and the nonprofit organization that we help people. So our why is the fact that nature and play and inclusion all in one place are just magic. And how we help people get there is by helping with design, by helping with fundraising, and by helping with the process of building. Many of these projects take between 3 to 6 years and several $1,000,000. Luckily, we love doing it. Like a good disease, we're spreading all over the Pacific Northwest and beyond. As I mentioned, this is a sample of some of the playgrounds that some of you might be able to visit when you come to the Portland metro area. And here is just a sampling of what some of those designs look like. Almost always a hill, and features spread around a landscape that you can just travel to. I mentioned earlier I was going to talk a lot about our most recent project, and so we're going to dive in to the elements. This is called Chelsea Anderson Memorial Play Station. It's in Vancouver, Washington. It was a 6-year, $4.3 million project, and I'm going to walk through some of the specific features. Karen, I'll mention right away that one of the key things, and we worked with the School for the Blind in Vancouver, we have signage posts throughout the entire space with English and Braille. And that was one of the particular advancements, of course, that is important. It's a wayfinding signage, also storytelling signage. But I'm going to roll through some of the key features. So an entry plaza, circular seating space, not only a place for storytelling, but this is usually where I will gather my guests who are going to receive a tour of a Harper's Playground. But it's a really good place for somebody to maybe sit and read a book while their children are playing. Really encourages and fosters community. Harper's Hill. I wish I had an hour to tell you why Harper's Hill is awesome, but I'm just going to show you a few images. The types of play, the play affordances, a term that Janet Loback taught me, are endless. You see the children who are using the rope. You see the hill really invites parents to get involved. This split screen to me says so much. It's just such a perfect space for a quiet contemplative moment, like the father and child on the right-hand side, but it absolutely invites some of the most rough and tumble play that you'll ever see at a playground. It really, you can get some good, still safe roughness happening. And children actually bring cardboard, which shows they're really thoughtfully planning for their play. And you just will never find kids sledding down a structure, but it's play affordances up and down. We still put slides, and we especially do a double wide slide so that there's a transfer deck and that a caregiver can more easily slide with their child. Sliding being so important. Really new to the playground universe is this WeGo swing by Landscape Structures. It's so important to offer playground features where children who are going to remain in their wheelchairs an opportunity for motion. So we have two that we really feature: this swing, and there's one I'll show you in a minute. Standard swing sets, of course, really key, but we always make sure that there are adaptive swings within them. And then one of our innovations that we came up with is an elevated sand table that's accessible, allowing children to play with wet sand. And this is pretty key. This is actually also near and dear to my heart because the little redhead in the striped sweatshirt you see here jumping in the puddle, that's my daughter Lennon. And at the age of 6, she asked when she was going to get her playground. And so we bought ourselves some time by naming the sand area for her. But allowing children an opportunity to actually shape their environment, right? Such a critical component of a good play space. Moving along, this one is called an oodle swing. Similar to those images I shared of the turn of the century playgrounds, this one really invites collaborative play, that it really requires children to help each other with the motion. It's pretty difficult to swing this by yourself. So, and they all, you get literally contact while you're on it, group play. as I mentioned, we focus all of our decisions on the idea of encouraging social connection, combating that epidemic, and ensuring friendships are nurtured. The one feature that we struggled with figuring out if it really could fit is this Mobius climber. We've decided it really works for us because if you use wheels, while you might not be able to climb up it, it's really important to offer children a chance for that, all that upper body strength and climbing and swinging, but a wheelchair can go through it. And it absolutely would encourage and allow a child who might be in their chair to stay connected in conversation with a friend who's still climbing it. So while it's not entirely adaptive itself, I would say it's a really good reminder that you're thoughtful about something like this, where the word compromise might come in, because we don't really compromise, but it's not a compromise in our eyes because social connection is not interrupted. Let's see. Oh yeah, the wheel play area. This is relatively new for us. Some people might call it a skate park. We call it a wheel play area because we are all about all wheels. And I think we're going to test, I think we'll be able to show you a little video. When we're talking about all wheels, we really mean it. We really mean all wheels. So this one, forgive the shakiness. I took it from my iPhone off of someone's Facebook page, but it's an example of how dad might be a skateboarder and the child might be in a wheelchair, and how important that is to have that happening right adjacent to and even really included in the playground. So that's the wheel play area. Log play, really important, back to unstructured. Simple log features, children love to play on that, and that ability to have contact with that natural material, so critical. This is called a weesaw. It's adaptive in that a child can sometimes transfer out of the wheelchair. Again, a small footprint and a lot of collaboration. All of these features I'm showing you, by the way, they're all in that new playground I mentioned, Champs at Marshall Park. I mentioned a second feature that allows children in wheelchairs to also have motion. This is called an integration carousel, and it can accommodate 2 wheelchairs and many friends all at one time. And we have it centrally located at our newest playground. Oftentimes filled with 10, 15 people. I mentioned art. This is really near and dear piece to me. We put bronze sculptures in a lot of our parks. This particular one, as you can see, is modeled a little bit after my daughter Harper. That's that maiden voyage she took to enter our neighborhood park. The bronze sculptor we work with loves to do these turtles. And so this one is at Marshall Park, and it's really based on Harper. And it represents, this next photo I'll share with you, the single moment that made 6 years and $4.3 million just in one instant worth it to me, was seeing this little girl recognize herself in that sculpture. Representation does matter, and it's a sculpture that brings delight to everyone who sees it, but maybe a little bit more in this instance. So yeah, that moment was really, really special to me. What I'm going to do now that I've shown you sort of mostly the static images of the new playground, this is a video I took probably just about a month ago on one of those rare sunny days during the early spring here, that hopefully will show you what it really looks like at one of our parks, the way it gets used, the variety of uses and users. So I think there's some volume, but allow me to just voice over a day in the life of Harper's Playground, Marshall Park. That's the wheel play area there, where you can see scooters and skaters. Shirts are off because it's 50 degrees and that's hot here. But look at this group of teenagers hanging around. Now, maybe they're up to no good, but at least they're in the playground. At least they're having a good time. They're probably sharing stories.
Dad, can we get some ice cream?
Now we're at the top of the hill where you can see cardboard has been brought.
Can we please get some
Dad sitting on a boulder. Lots of activity on the hill. And then we're about to see the spinner. So there's the integration spinner, and you see the collaboration and the number of kids playing. And watch this little girl stick her tongue out at her friend. I love that one. All this exercise up and down the hill, that just the amount of activity. Again, you see how many adults are in the space, not on the outside, but literally in it and moving around and connected. Now you have this guy who's not even going to drop his soda, but he's going to get involved. That's a log play area with those rings added. That's the sand play area there being activated. The oodle swing. Beautiful thing about this, of the many beautiful things about this location, it's completely encircled by old growth trees. I think there's the wheelchair swing. I think trees and seating. You see all these seat walls we have. We have so much seating. What's beautiful about the seat walls is they're great repository for the sculptures. You could never have too much seating. And they're climbing features. So a lot of multi-use, I think, as well. You can actually hear the ice cream truck in the background. I don't know if you can hear that. So that's just a 3-minute slice of life of what's happening all the time at the playground. We're really honored that people from all over the globe have been reaching out to us. Every calendar year, we keep track of people who download our how-to book. Those are our entry points to develop a conversation about whether or not they'd like us to help them or they're going to go at their own. All good. Our goal is to go out of business. Our goal is for this to become so ubiquitous globally that there's no reason for a nonprofit to promote it anymore. So towards that end, we do host an annual workshop to help move us closer to being out of business. We take people on the journey that you see here, from initial idea to celebrating a grand opening. And so this will be the first time that we're hosting it twice a year. I guess that first one is really close to when you're in town, right, Janet? Is that true?
Yeah, the 19th is the first date of the conference.
Gotcha. Well, we'll have just had it, but anyway, opportunities to engage with us from the website. I have a couple slides after the question time, but now I would love to answer questions, and then I'll wrap it up with my finale slides, because that's what I was told you should always do. Have a couple slides at the very end.
Good idea. We just related to your workshops, Karen had a question about whether are those in person, are they virtual, or both? The workshops you offer
are in person. Yeah. The really critical and I think most impactful part of them is the guided tours of the different playgrounds, where we really dive into lessons learned from each one, and we want to help people become capable of designing them themselves. So we focus a lot of energy on the guided tours of the playgrounds. I think we look forward to maybe putting out a video series that again helps put us out of business, and potentially virtual. That is a really good I think we probably could do that. I honestly, I am enjoying this, but my favorite thing is not talking into a screen. I would much rather be in a room with you all. Our mission is human contact, and so we try to live our mission a bit too. But we just love taking people on the tours as well. But thanks for that question.
And so I think we can open it up if you're willing. If you have a question, maybe use your little tools to put your hand up, or you can type it in the chat, and I will post that for you. So happy to open up for questions, comments. I'm sure there are many.
I have one. Oh,
Yeah, go ahead, Nishan.
okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you for the great presentation. I really loved it because my research is focused. I'm a PhD student right now at Lubbock, Texas. My research is like focused on children, specifically with autism, and then focusing on sensory design, how you can use your all senses. What future plans do you have, or what are the things that you think are missing right now, and then how are you gonna incorporate with like in future design? That's my question. Like as a sensory processor, like hearing, virtual, like some of them. So
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. And I think both for back to Karen's question and your question, I want to share with you a saying that I have that is, if you think that you're really good at inclusion, then you know you're not. So yeah, there's a long way to go. I think our current lens on that topic is especially the natural materials that we present. They're very tactile, and offer lots of variety for they're still very smooth if that's if that's the preference, but there's also very much jaggedy, a lot of different options, and natural, like bark for trees and sand, and boulders are probably one of the most important design features we put in. We also think about sensory overload from the standpoint of really an expansive space. So as busy as that park I just showed you is, in our experience, no matter how busy it is, there's usually nooks and crannies within the area that if somebody is feeling a bit overwhelmed by the sensory input, that they could retreat into a space. So those are parts of how we're thinking about that. And I think of the many outcomes that we're interested in is more awareness and more conversation. I think we have to rely on the people beyond just the design, and the idea that people will be aware of the fact that there are lots of different types of abilities, and the idea of the people within the space being conscious of it, becoming ambassadors to being helpful, is, I think, a big part of our mission as well. So that's the lens we're at now, and I think the opportunity we have is to expand every group from our board of directors to the people involved in our design process to ensure that we have the voices in the room. We do that to the best of our ability, but when I say if you think you're doing well, then you're not, because we could always do better.
thank you. That answers
Yeah.
my question.
Thank you.
Karen has her hand up. Karen, if you want to go ahead.
Sure. Hi, I'm so inspired. I don't know to call you G or Cody,
Cody, I
QJ,
go by
or
Cody. I go by
Cody.
Cody. Yeah.
So inspired, and it made me think of, by the way, I think your project and mission, if you will, could be a great representation at this early childhood conference I virtually attended at Perkins. So hit me up if you want, and I would be interested in talking to you more about how to get involved, perhaps with what you're doing. But tied to what you're doing, and also a Nishan's sensory question, it occurred to me, have you ever considered doing this? You know how you have climbing gyms, for instance, and sort of, would you ever do something like an inside kind of experiential an experience that would it would be different than outside, but incorporating sensory sound design, just obstacle courses, but in a way that's accessible. I don't know. That made me think about that.
Yeah, I think the best way for me to answer that is we truly do want the entire planet to be one big Harper's Playground, indoors and outdoors. We started with really just outdoor public parks. We were invited to engage with schools right away, and we thought, a school is not a naturally inclusive environment the way a public park is, just because a grandparent can't just wander onto a schoolyard during school hours. But now we're starting to work in school spaces because it's really more of a matter of capacity. So to move towards indoor space, I would say eventually, for sure, or with the right opportunities, because nature is such an important part of our work, and because we currently don't have the capacity to engage all the projects we wish we could. It would go on the list, but yeah, I mean, I believe every space should be inclusive, and every space could stand to be a little more playful, and every space could probably even be a little more natural. So if we move in that direction for all spaces, that's basically what we would want to see happen.
I have a quick question, and then others, we can still call on. One thing I really appreciate, which a bell I've been ringing a lot, as I really see it in all the place-based observations I do, it's really places not leveraging topography, and that's one thing I've appreciated, particularly those steep hills, and just the variety, but not just the gentle, but those steep spaces, and they also allow for they can be quite accessible, inclusive. My question is that it's sort of a design question, in that it seems like you're having to use turf for those for that topography and hills, and just wondering if you could speak to that a little bit, and in particular if you found something that works particularly well. We know that natural grass will not often stay on those spaces, and we may have to live with turf in order to be able to provide those steep topography. So can you chat about your experience there, where you guys have landed in that sense?
Yeah, the turf to me is the best alternative to real grass for now, both because it provides a much better sliding option than I have seen people do hills but cover them in the poured in place rubber, which it's not a good slide really, and it's not nearly as elegant looking as the turf. But I would love to maybe someday work with the turf people from English Premier League soccer or something that could invent a natural turf that could really do it. But yeah, so that's basically it's the best. I would love to see Harper's Playgrounds be all natural materials someday, for sure. Eliminate all the plastic and all the turf eventually. Yeah.
It is. I recognize it. I've dealt with a lot too. It's a maybe necessary compromise for now, so that you can, that topography alone can be so compelling and so playful, and most playgrounds I see are dead flat. So Davis has her hand up. Pass it to you.
Hi, Cody. Thank you, Janet and Julie, for organizing this. I'm so incredibly jazzed. It's like grading, thesis, finals, all the stuff, and I don't care. This is the place to be. I knew I had to be here, especially because I live just south of you. I presume you live in Portland. So I'm in Corvallis, Oregon, where we have kind of an ongoing slated to redo a whole thing. And anyway, I'm connecting the dots while you're talking, and I just have to multitask as a mom of a future BFA. I noticed you have a BFA, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
So the question is, like, I'm meeting you and saying hi to you because during EDRA at your workshop tour, I get to be running a workshop on trauma-informed design the whole time. So, I can't multitask that well yet to be in both places at once. So I just want to kind of put on your radar. I reached out on LinkedIn. I don't know how much, I mean, you're doing all the things so brilliantly that is part of my dynamic of how do I bring real research to real students and real opportunities and create a sustainable infrastructure of an idea that's, it has all, is everything for me. I did my early childhood education degree as an undergrad. I did my master's in studying preschool children's attentional behavior. I'm not about research, I'm about play and being a mom. But then again, I am about research because I have a PhD. I run a graduate program at the Boston Architectural College. So it's very much a chance to like shake your hand and say, so nice to meet you. I'm just so happy that you're doing this work. I'm feeling all of the good feels. I'm excited. My two questions, I do have real questions, are I looked on the website while you're presenting, you're not selling the hats through your merch section. So what's the story?
Every website always could. In fact, I think my relatively new to the organization marketing manager, it's high on that list. I'll tell you quickly. The story is that I never intended to sell them per se. I designed it for the TED Talk because I thought it would just get noticed, frankly. And at an auction shortly after that, somebody said, "Auction off your hat," and it sold for $1,000. So for a long time, this was our 1K club member hat. As a nonprofit, we are always fundraising. We do sell them at events for $100 each, and then we will add them to the website. We still want them to be somewhat special, and they're actually pretty expensive to produce. But so I also will. I can get you one. Corvallis is not that far.
Yeah.
Our team is driving down to Salem to visit we have a playground in Salem, Oregon that we helped design next week.
I'm ready to drop anything to meet and help. And that's my second question, is how do I launch my offer myself to be on your board of directors?
Email and board of directors is my highest priority every day.
Yeah.
We'll connect.
Okay. Awesome.
Thank you so much.
For sure. Thank you.
I'm sorry I didn't think to connect you to beforehand. So happy this is doing it. So we do still have some more time for questions if anyone else wants to put their hand up. But another one that occurred to me is, I'm curious, Cody, in terms of like all the people that are reaching out to you, for interest and wanting to partner. What is the makeup of those people? Like, is it a lot of sort of little community groups? Are we getting to municipalities? Are we getting into the professional planners and designers at all? Or does it tend to be sort of these grassroots groups, or are you seeing more diversity now? I'm curious who's contacting you.
Yeah, that's a really wonderful question. Thank you. In the earliest days, it was mostly parents, especially who saw the Today Show, and parents of children with disabilities are motivated. They see their children just sitting on the sidelines. We particularly get outreach from parents of children who experience disabilities who lost their children to an early death and really want to do something with that grief. And they decide a playground is the project that they're going to do in their child's name. But now it's definitely it's growing into far more municipal decision makers, parks directors and parks planners. And we've structured ourselves to try to attract all of those folks, especially. Landscape architects love to take our book and then tell us they don't want to hear back from us. And it's fun because we actually really are saying, steal our idea, please. So Godspeed. But we've sometimes been invited by landscape architects to partner with a project they're going to go after. I think of the many things I am proud that Harper's Playground has been a part of is we have absolutely played a pretty big role, I would even say, in creating a demand for this model on a global scale. So landscape architects are coming and taking because they're going after these jobs. So it's all of those groups for sure.
So to say that's great to hear that it isn't like you say, motivated parents are fantastic, but really glad to see it's shifting into that. The professional practices and municipalities are really interested in this kind of work. So, Ahmed, have your hand up.
Yes. Thank you very much for this interesting presentation. And I worked with children with disability and also children in general. And I am in the region, I am in the United Arab Emirates. And the region, that is more of the desert and you don't see the greenery. So it is really a challenge when to realize this playground that mostly greenery. So did you face something or design it in a region that mostly a sand based as an environment? Do you think this natural uh, environment can also be designed, use it only sand for playground as a main color or main element in the playground as well? So this is because when you come close to the urban, you see that the sand become difficult to maintain in a space or something. But when you go to the desert itself, you find the children, the adults, they love to play actually with these areas, and it becomes also a play and sport spaces and so on. Yeah. So, do you have any feedback on this kind of challenges, or might be opportunities to create new things? Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you so much. Not yet. And I would love the chance to be part of a project that does tackle that unique design challenge. While you were even speaking, I was starting to imagine what could be done. Um, I have certainly found my true calling in this work, and my favorite component of the work is definitely the design part. Um, it's just such a joyous thing to look at a space, or even the piece of paper that represents the space, and to dream up how it could come to be a nurturing space for everybody, not only children but for everybody. And I think that's a a challenge we haven't yet faced, but I would love to be part of that. And I know my other designer, Caroline, would absolutely love to as well. So please reach out if you'd like to engage with us. Um, we actually had a delegation from the Middle East visiting Portland not long ago, so we now have a lot of contacts in everywhere from Saudi Arabia to Iraq and Iran. They all came, all folks who experience disability, to learn about what is happening in our region. The organization is called World Oregon, who curates these trips, and then we were able to meet them all, and there seemed to be a lot of interest as well. Nobody brought up the sand the way you did when we were talking, but that is a unique challenge for accessibility, obviously.
Yeah.
That and I think for at least trees or shade, I would imagine shade would be important. Our family, anecdotally, I'll share, our family took an RV trip around Southwest United States last summer, and the average temperature was about 110 degrees the whole time. And what we saw was nothing but empty play areas, because none of them have shade, and they're all just metal and plastic.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone really wants to wrestle with a pile of metal on a 110-degree day.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Oh, go ahead.
just take what I see now in the city, for example. I come from Australia as well, and I know that the greenery is part of everywhere. You don't need to maintain it. Is you will find it around you. And what I see from the designers, actually, they are kind of copying. I feel that when I go to the park, I see it is a kind of the similar park in Australia. I can feel the sense of the park. It's copying other environment is design, you know.
Yeah.
So, and that require a lots of it's expensive to maintain, a park in this way. So that's why the question in my mind, why we don't change the way that we design things, and we might create things maybe more lively. Thank you. I will be in contact with you. I will send you contact, inshallah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ahmed. And I was thinking while you were saying that, I had the same thought to you, Cody. You say that we actually, there's a lot in the US that have challenges with maintaining greenery. You know, we have some very hot desert conditions here. So great question. We do have a couple people put questions in the chat, but what I'd like to do, I'm going to make my 30-second pitch. I'm going to pass it to you, Cody, to do your final slides, and then I'll invite, if Cody, if you're okay, anyone that wants to stay on for, if you have a question, you could maybe stay on for a couple of minutes, but that others who need to go can go as need to. So I just want to, for anyone who is here, and this is available to EDRA members, I've been certainly promoting it with the CYE network. I'm organizing a tour of both the original Harper's Playground and this last one with, I believe it's Caroline that's going to be the other project managers, designers with Harper's Playground on the afternoon of the 19th. So that's the intensive day. This is outside of the conference. I'm including a little Qualtrics survey in the chat. If you are interested in that, please fill that out and I'll be in touch. It'll be from, I think, from planning from about 1:30 to 4 on the 19th. And part of that, you will actually receive a copy of the how-to guide that Cody or that Harper's Playground has put out. So my little plug there. So Cody, I'll pass it back to you. You can sort of wrap up, and then if you have a couple minutes, we can attend to the last couple of questions.
Thank you so much, Janet. That's been really wonderful. I have pretty much a hard stop at 5 after, so it'll give us a 5 minutes. But as I mentioned, I was told never end on questions, end on your message. So I do want to share these final 2 slides. On behalf of Harper, my sweet daughter, who we build multi-million-dollar playgrounds, but she only seems to care about the swings. But luckily, sometimes she's the center of attention. She's sort of famous now in town. And I'm glad that she gets to have the experience of swinging with friends. This is an adaptive swing, right? She's grown out of an infant swing now and doesn't quite have the coordination and to be in a typical belt swing. So this is an adaptive feature here. But really, I'm pretty selfish, and I just want to be able to swing with my girl. So wherever I go, I want to be able to swing with her, not just playgrounds I help build, but you know, if I come to the United Arab Emirates, I hope I can swing with Harper there too. So that's part of why I want to see the whole globe take this on. But I thank you all. This was one of my favorite sessions. You obviously were, you know your stuff, and you know how important children's play is and environments that encourage human contact are. So it was a delight to share it with you all and meet you all. And I will stay on for a few more minutes for some questions.
Great, and I just want to thank you, Cody, for your time. I'm sure there's been some comments. People, thank you in the chat. There was one from Alan, I think is still with us, saying, you know, is there a minimum site size really needed to kind of realize the concept and goals of the playground? So is there a scale issue?
I love that question. The answer is no. We have been involved with some pretty small spaces that can have real value. I mean, I think definitely the broader size definitely can address some more of the necessity to offer like retreat spaces, like I'd spoken about a little bit. But in terms of really achieving a really elegant space that invites people in for contact, I think can be achieved in a very tiny space. We've been involved with that. The ideal space is a bit bigger, for sure, for the variety of activities that you can offer. But ultimately, back to my main point, everywhere, anywhere, all shapes and sizes should be basically known as Harper's Playgrounds.
Thank you. Alan, do you have any follow-up question or comment?
Yes. Thank you. Thanks for taking the question. Can you share just a range of sizes of the images that you showed us today?
The original playground is 26,000 square feet. That first one I showed you. The Marshall Park playground is more than twice that size. It's about 60,000 square feet. It's very large. And the smallest one that we've actually accomplished was about 10,000 square feet. That's actually another one in Vancouver. It's called Esther Short Park. It's sort of the center space. So I can share some of that, and feel free to check our website. Most of our projects are on there, or reach out to me direct as well.
Thank you.
Of course.
Yeah, and I think we're close to our hard stop for you here. I will be sharing certainly with the CYE network, anyone who's on the call who's EDRA member who hasn't indicated that you'd like to be part of that network, please do. And I'll share some information on the website ahead of time, and hope I will see some of you in person. Take a spin around a couple of these places on the 19th. And Julie, anything you
Yeah,
need
I'll just
to
add
finish
that
up with?
did record this, so I will be posting the recording to the EDRA website in the webinar section. Might just take a
Alright.
few days for us to get it up and
Yeah.
running.
All right.
Hey,
Well,
thank you all. Cody, this
Thank you
was
all for joining, and Cody, look forward to seeing you finally in person in June. Hopefully. Well, I know you're traveling a little bit, but I'm hoping we will be able to connect. So, all right.
Thank you
Thanks
so
everyone
much.
for attending.
Thank you so much.
Great. Take care.
Thanks, Cody. Thanks,
Thanks.
everybody.
Take care. Bye.
Bravo.